Thank you, Genevieve.
Yeah.
So, welcome everyone. I have to say it is raining like crazy in Great Falls. We have gotten an inch of rain.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
I know, it's pretty cool actually. I think everyone on here knows me, but just for the record, I am Tracy with the Montana State Library, and I'm going to be chairing today's meeting. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'm going to have the task force members introduce themselves. And just to kind of make it a little bit fun, I'll have you say your name and kind of what library you're from or your role, because I know a couple of you are just representing the commission, for instance. And then one highlight from your summer, something that you really enjoyed doing. So I'll go ahead and pull up the task force member list, and I'm just going to go in order. So Joy, you are first.
Good morning. I'm Joy Bridwell. I'm the library director at the Stone Child College Rocky Boy Community Library in Box Elder, Montana. And the highlight is I took my son to his first big concert in Oakland, California.
Ooh, that's pretty fun. All right, Michelle, you are next.
Hello, I'm Michelle Derochet from West Yellowstone Public Library. I'm the director here. I think kayaking with my friends this summer was probably the best.
That fits your picture on Aspen because I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice. Mitch.
My name is Mitch Grady. I'm from the Livingston.
And your highlight?
Somewhere where what's that?
Oh, okay. You broke out there. So I was like, what's your highlight?
The highlight of my summer were the 2 dates that I got to sleep in till almost 9:30.
Wow. Although, Mitch, I would say maybe you need to like get some hobbies.
Sounds like a lot of work.
That's true, actually. Tammy, you're next.
Hi, I'm Tammy Hall, and I'm on the commission, and I was appointed by Greg Jean Forte in May of last year. So I've been on over a year and a half. I love the people. And I'd say the highlight of my summer was my nephew's wedding in Whistler in British Columbia. Wonderful week, and 3 trips up to Canyon Ferry.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful country. Dave.
Good morning. Dave Ingram from Imagination Earth Library in Kalispell as a trustee. And my highlight was riding going to the Sun Road in Glacier this summer.
Oh, yeah.
On a bike or on a motorcycle?
Oh, on a bicycle.
On a bicycle. Wow. I am impressed. There are some big hills on the going to the Sun Road.
It's a slow process. Coming down is pretty quick, but going up is not.
Yes. Yeah, that's a workout, but beautiful. Dawn.
Hi, my name is Dawn Kingstead. I'm the library director here at the Glendive Public Library, and I absolutely love to hear what everybody's saying. I didn't get to take my vacation or anything yet, but we had 891 people sign up for our summer reading program here in Glendive. Wow. That is the biggest we've ever had it. I was just bummed we were only 9 away from 900. So
that's awesome, Dawn.
We were here, and yes, sometime soon I'm gonna get away and do some sewing.
Nice. Congratulations, Dawn. That's impressive. Jeannie. I know Jeannie may.
Jeannie, you're muted.
Thank you, Kara. Sometimes it can be challenging. It still shows you, you're unmuted, Jeannie, but I still can't hear you.
If you tap on the caret that's next to your microphone icon, you might choose a different microphone source.
While Jeannie is doing that, Kara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Carol Urban. I work for the Montana State Library. I had a very busy summer, and one highlight was that I got to visit my sister in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I'm from. And so that was really nice to connect with her in person.
Nice. Having hiked with your sister, I can understand why that would be a highlight. Brian.
I'm Brian Rossman from Montana State University Library in Bozeman, and I'm on the commission. And I think my highlight this summer was in the spring. I got to spend 10 days in Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
Wow. That's very nice. I love Amsterdam.
Yeah, it's an amazing city. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is. Lots of bicyclists. I remember having to like watch out when I was walking around there. They'd come whipping by. It's pretty cool.
I think that's an understatement in terms of place. I don't think there's any place on this planet that has more bicycles than Amsterdam.
I
agree.
wondered that. I was like, wow. I mean, it's important to always pay attention to your surroundings, but you know, sometimes you'd be admiring something and then all of a sudden you'd hear this little ding and be like, oh yeah, jump out of the way here. I'm gonna just check in with Jeannie real quick. Jeannie, do you want to test your mic out and see if you've got it working? Nope, it's still not picking up on your mic, unfortunately. Sometimes, like when it won't register my mic, I'll leave and then I'll come back in, and then it will pick up the mic. You might give that a try, and we'll check in and see. Because I definitely want you to be able to participate. You always have wise words for us.
Tracy,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing pictures of people. I'm only seeing the picture of you. Is that the way you've got it set, or is that the way my computer's set?
I think it's the way your computer is set because I can see the agenda.
I see the agenda, but
Oh,
I
okay.
don't see the
You don't-
people when they speak.
Oh, well, if
That's
I,
like looking at you.
If you have
Yeah.
the Zoom client open in the upper right of the screen, there's a little icon that says view. And if you click on that, it
Under
gives
more-
you some different view options. And if you select side by side gallery, that will
Okay.
show you the cameras.
Okay, I have mute, stop video, share content, participants, and more.
I think the
And more.
The
Those-
view in mine is up, like above the agenda. On the right is where mine is, but that might be my view. That's making it, putting it up there.
Okay, well, that's fine.
All right.
Thank you so much for trying to help.
Yeah, you bet. Jenny, you are next on my list.
Hi, everyone. Jenny Stapp from the Montana State Library. And I think the highlight from my summer was getting certified to scuba dive down in the Southern Caribbean.
Oh,
It's pretty cool. All right, Mark.
All
You're
right,
next.
Yeah, I'm Mark Weatherington. I'm the director here at Bitterroot Public Library in Hamilton. Highlight of my summer is probably a week-long backpacking trip in Glacier National Park on the west side of the park. It was just terrific, good weather. Yeah, couldn't have been better.
Yep. That is a highlight I would share too, Mark, if I had it. Definitely my time in Glacier. That was the highlight for me. I see Jeannie is back with us, so I just want to give her a chance.
Good morning.
Yay! We can hear you.
Sorry about that. I had never seen that walk here before. But anyway, probably because I am so technologically challenged, you will understand that the highlight of my summer was going back for my 50th high school reunion. So that gives you an idea just how old I am. And, but it was great, and I now have closure on high school.
Wow. That's pretty amazing, Jeannie. I actually can't believe it's your 50th. You're young at heart, that is for sure.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. And for members of the public, welcome. We are glad that you could join us today. I want to start off by thanking you, task force members. Once again, I gave you a lot of homework, and I really appreciate you being here and just adding your different viewpoints. I know that the last meeting, just hearing what everyone had to say and some of your questions and comments that you made really helped me as I thought about creating standards that are going to work for all sizes of libraries and best serve Montanans. So just as a reminder of kind of the big picture process, the way that this works is we have this meeting today, basically to work through the final 2 standards we were charged to look at. We are going to send the recommendations along with the options of the things that you looked at to the commission for them to take action on in October and to choose which ones they want to move forward into an administrative rules process. We have Katie Bowmans, who is the attorney from Agency Legal Services assigned to the State Library to help us craft those administrative rules. She will be in and out today. She is actually being sworn in by the Supreme Court. But if we have any questions for her, we can save those and ask them either when she is able to join us, or we can follow up with her afterwards. So the structure that we're going to go through here for our members of the public is just, we will kind of present the item and then the task force will discuss it. And then I'll call for public comment, and Kara Orban is graciously going to manage that for us. And then the task force will be asked to make a motion to take action on an item, and then we'll go through that process as well. All of this actually reminds me that I forgot to ask a very important person to introduce herself. Genevieve, would you introduce yourself? I forgot.
Sure. I'm Genevieve Lighthizer. I'm admin specialist with the Montana State Library.
Thank you. Genevieve is kindly running everything in the background for me, so I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged her. So our first agenda item is the approval of the minute log from our last meeting. Are there any corrections or changes to the minute log?
Tracy,
Yes.
this is Tammy. Because I was not able to be at the last meeting and Tom sat in for me, I wanted to thank whoever, all the meeting minutes. They were incredibly informative and well written, and they helped me a great deal. So who put that together? Yourself, Genevieve. I just really want to thank you.
All right, it sounds like no one has any changes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to accept the minutes.
All right, thank you, Dave.
And this is Dawn Kingstead. I'll second.
All right, thank you, Dawn. Are there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Is anyone abstaining? All right, motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is the review of public comment on recommendations that the task force made in August. It's been typically our practice that we take any recommendations you made to the public for them to just respond to. Sometimes they have really good questions or comments or things that we haven't thought of. I shared with you the summary of the public comment from meetings. This is actually all of the public comment about all of the standards. As I mentioned in the memo, everyone was fine with the recommendations you made at your last meeting. And Genevieve, if you pull up that memo, the review of public comment, I basically just kind of summarized what we did last time around. And so because we had no public comment indicating otherwise, staff really feel like there's nothing you need to change. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this particular action item? We'll be talking about the public comment for the formula and the MLS degree later on, but do you have any questions for me or comments about this agenda item? Okay. And then I will just ask if there is any public comment. For those of you who are members of the public, we did disable chat, so you will need to use a microphone. All you need to do is raise your hand and Kara Orban will acknowledge you. We can give you 3 minutes. And so is there any public comment on this particular agenda item? All right, so task force members, are you okay with me just moving to the next agenda item? It doesn't sound like we need to take any action. All right. So the next item is the formula. So this is how to best include accredited tribal college libraries that provide services to the public within the state aid formula. And I shared with you your previous meeting materials so that you had those. To recap for you, basically, as we talked through this, we noticed first of all the kind of big changes and impact it had on public libraries in those counties. We also kind of talked about the complexities of deciding which method to use to give credit for service area population. You had asked me about a map, just kind of showing the distances. And so, Genevieve, if you'll pull up that map showing the distances between tribal college libraries and public libraries, that would be lovely. So this kind of shows you how far it is. And the reason that this came up was we were kind of going between, should the service area population we use be the student and staff count at the college? Should it be the city? You know, how should we do this? And so our GIS professionals on staff created this map for us, which kind of the blue circle is a 20-mile radius, the green is a tribal college library, and the blue is either a public or a branch library, which is rather interesting. When I was looking at this, I noticed, for example, that some libraries are quite close to a main public library, others are close to a branch library, which may have very limited hours. The other thing that this revealed was the fact that many of the tribal college libraries are very close to county lines. And so, in fact, they may impact or have service area population from 2 different counties. And so we needed to take that into consideration as well. So before I kind of talk about the public comment, does anyone have any questions about this map, or is there anything you would like to see? You're a quiet group this morning. I might have to start calling on people.
I would just say thank you again to the people who put it together for us.
Yes, Pat Johnson, our GIS pro, kind of put this together. And the other thing I found very helpful and very interesting is Kara graciously took the lead in hosting the public comment sessions. And we had a tribal college librarian attend, Erin LaFramboise, and she reminded us of the complexities of trying to figure out the service area population in a way that's fair to everyone, the public libraries and the tribal college libraries. I mean, she pointed out things like not all tribal college libraries really provide services to the public. They allow the public in, but they're not actively serving the public, such as Joy is doing, for instance, through her programming. She also pointed out and reminded me, of course, that one of our tribal college libraries is a branch of the Roosevelt County Library. And so, you know, that library shares funding with the tribal college library. So how do you account for that? As a result of that conversation, you know, I wondered if, since this is a formula, could we create an administrative rule that looked at MSL staff working with the local public libraries and the tribal college libraries to create an agreement about how service area population would be divided between the libraries, to just recognize the differences. And I believe Katie is here right now and perhaps could join us, but she has been doing research on this, and initially it looks like that might be possible. And Katie, are you able to speak to this? I know you are in and out today, so you may not be available.
Yeah, good morning, Tracy. Yeah, I've been working with, I can't remember her name, the lady from Post, because they have a similar issue, as you're aware, with the tribal areas and the 911 calls and radios. And they are actually in the process of updating their rules as this formula. So we're trying to work with each other to mirror that, to have something we can propose to the commission by that October meeting, to kind of give us a little more of a fine-tuned equation while still giving the local areas and libraries their own latitude and discretion as well, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Katie. Kara, is there anything that I missed? Is there anything you would like to add from your experience running the public comment meetings?
No, I think you summarized Erin's comments well, and those comments are also captured in the public comment document that is under this action item.
Okay. Well, task force members, what do you think? After reviewing the information, hearing what Katie had to say, do you have any thoughts? I mean, maybe I should just ask specifically, what do you think about the allowing an administrative rule with a working out of a local agreement between the impacted libraries?
Tracy, this is Tammy.
Yeah.
I'm not positive where it's appropriate to add this. I think it's the third item. It looks to me like the first or second item you have some in red, you drew in some changes you're recommending. I was just very appreciative of Dawn Kingstead. I thought her motion, if it was such a motion, I thought it was really well done, included what we need to do. I agreed with that, and I want to make sure that we have a chance to put that in. I noticed on the fourth item, you have at the bottom, MSL staff recommended adding language to say something to the effect of, and it's somewhat agreed with her statement, but I think I'd like to put her motion in there if Dawn is here, but I don't know if we're there yet. It seemed to me that was the third item, and I just wasn't sure when we would get to that, or if this is all one discussion on those three separate points.
And so just to make sure that I'm looking at the right thing, are you looking at the previous meeting materials, Tammy, under update formula?
I am. And Dawn, I thought made a motion, and I didn't see that motion included, but I did read that the staff it was the fourth item down, and it said that the staff recommended adding language to 10.1024.003 that says something to the effect of no accredited tribal library, It was very similar to Dawn's motion, but it wasn't exactly Dawn's motion or credited to her. And when it's appropriate to make a motion about the topic we're discussing here, I just wanted to say, Dawn, I really appreciated your comment, thought it served us all well. And so that'd be a good jumping off point. But I also know that we have two other things first that we have here on the agenda, but they all sort of go together to me. It's hard to separate them.
Yeah, as I recall, when Dawn was talking about the accredited tribal college libraries formula, she made the really lovely point about lifting all of us. And we actually, as a task force, chose to table the motion
Right.
because we felt like we needed more data. We needed to see, because the task force was sort of divided, like whether or not to use just the college count, I guess, of employees and students versus the city. And Dawn, I don't know if you want to speak to what Tammy is saying. You're like,
Well,
if you're like
thank
me,
you. This is
August was a while
Dawn.
ago. Yeah, go ahead, Dawn.
No, you're fine. Thank you. I just kind of wanted to let others speak because I appreciate what you guys say this morning, but I just kind of want I just was making sure that everyone else was heard because I talked more last time. So I'm just making sure to be to share well, I guess, this morning. But thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that.
What would be helpful for you in making a decision? I mean, would it be,
Tracy, could I,
yeah, please.
may I restate where I think we may be heading with this discussion?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we're all on the same page and all clear. I think based on the public comment that we received and the insightful feedback that we got from Aaron Laufenboy and the research that Katie is doing, essentially the formula itself would remain the same in terms of the distribution that currently exists. And we would work, if this is the direction the task force recommends and the commission ultimately adopts, we would then work with the accredited tribal college libraries that meet the public library standards and the local libraries within that geographic area to come to an agreement on the distribution of funds. But that those agreements would work with the amount of funding that is currently determined in the current formula. Is that correct and succinct?
Yes, that's an excellent summary. I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, Joy, but you are much more of a subject matter expert on this than any of us. Do you have a reaction or thoughts on that suggestion to work with local agreements?
So after last month's meeting, I did have a meeting with Rachel Ron at the Havre Public Library. I do sit on their library board as a county member, being the previous tribal member had stepped down. And so I actually stayed after that meeting and I asked her if the funding being taken away from her to give to me would affect her library in any way, and if it would cause conflict between her and I, since we are good friends and everything, and we're close in distance to each other. And she straight up told me it wouldn't affect her in any way. The amount that she gets already is small. And so having this tiny amount, even if though it is a tiny amount, it's something my library needs. And it will help in a lot of ways. And so we discussed it, and she's, actually quite excited that that 4 accredited tribal college libraries are getting this funding from the state, being that we would follow all what the standards ask of us. And so it made me feel a lot more comfortable because I was very hesitant to ask her about it. And so I'm just happy that I'm able to represent my library into getting this funding. Sorry, I kind of have a cold this morning, so my throat's a little sore, but I am at work. But yeah, I felt a lot more relieved after I had spoken to her. I have not spoken with the other librarian in Choteau County. That library is 10 miles away from us, and I know they have limited hours. So I would like to sit down with her as well and, discuss how us getting this funding would affect their library. It is a small library. I've never been inside of it, but I've driven past it. But yeah, it kind of made me feel more relieved to talk to Rachel about the whole situation.
Thank you, Joy.
Tracy, I know that it says that we are to take action, or we're to this task force. It says we need to amend 10-102-1158. And you so have it amended on the memo that you sent to us with the red writing amending it.
Mhm.
So are we to make a motion to accept that amended today? Because I know it was down as an action item.
So that actually, the task force, if I'm remembering right, the task force did take action on that, Tammy.
Okay.
Yep, we are talking about update the formula under 10.102.4003. So this is the administrative rules that actually lays out the formula for how service area population will be divided between libraries, and then that is how state aid per capita is allocated. And so what we are trying to do is figure out, now that accredited tribal college libraries that meet the public library standards would be eligible, how do we allocate that service area population?
So this would be the appropriate time to bring up Dawn's formula recommendation.
So it could be, yep.
Okay. What I hear Jim saying is that we're going to study more, or is she saying we're going to take action? Because this again is an action item today.
It is an action item. So basically, maybe this would help. What Jenny summarized was what we've learned with public comment.
Right.
What options the task force has, these are the options that you have, really. You could choose to recommend that MSL staff work with the tribal college libraries and the public libraries to come back with a recommendation for the formula. You could choose to take action using one of the options from the previous meeting, which, as I recall, Dawn, I think you were recommending that we use the city and college population, but please.
Correct. That was because it looked like it had, the other options seemed to more negatively affect one or the other colleges, or sorry, one or the other libraries, where the city ones seem to have less of a bite to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way, but of course, to me, it sounds like we're almost there, because yes, if they then would work out a local agreement, I mean, it really does sound like it would be the best of all worlds. But I want to hear from other members, because I know that last time some were apprehensive, and I haven't heard any of them speak yet. So if they still have apprehension, I would like them to speak at this time, please. Not to call anyone out, but please.
No, I think that's a fair question. And maybe it would help, Genevieve, if you would go back to the agenda and pull up the previous meeting materials. It might help to pull up the spreadsheet that had kind of the comparison so that people could see it. And I think, yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it. And then I think it's, yep. So maybe this will help folks as well. All right, task force members. Dawn had a question for you. How do you feel about the different options? We had kind of honed in on student versus college and city population. And then now there's this third possibility of just allowing it to be an agreement negotiated between the local public libraries and the tribal college libraries, of which some might choose college and city, but others might, say, for instance, use school district populations. For example, on that map, the Darcy McNichol Library, which is in Salish Kootenai College, is actually near 3 libraries. And so using school district population for them actually doesn't negatively impact all of the other libraries, but may be a more accurate reflection. So
I would like to, first of all, there's 2 topics here. This is Tammy. The second topic is what to do if someone doesn't want these funds and would they return to the county? And I think that's an important part of Dawn's statement, but we'll address that after we address this.
Yep.
I'm comfortable, just from my point of view, looking at what's right for staff and what's clear in the future. I'm uncomfortable doing different funding accreditation for different schools in different tribes. I really would suggest that we make a decision, and I don't have a preference one way or another. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't have a preference because I'm not knowledgeable about it. I would trust the rest of the committee. So whether you go with the county, the college, the school district, I would highly recommend that it be one set by us to follow for everybody, because it gets very, very difficult if you allow everybody to have their own funding. I promise that will develop problems all of its own. But when you decide as a group which one of those 3 you think works the best, I would certainly support what the majority feel about that.
Okay.
And I agree with Dawn. I'd like to hear from the other people. Thank you to those who've spoken, but what's the advantage? It might be an advantage for one place, and we've taken all the public comment. Now we need to, as a task force, the hard job of put that together. And it won't fit everybody, and somebody will be happy and somebody won't be, but let's try to pick the formula that will work the best for the most, because that's unfortunately what happens with standards.
All right. So other task force members, what do you think? Pick a standard formula or explore the local agreement option? Sounds like we're
Tracy, this is Brian. Would you entertain a motion?
I should probably call for public comment specifically on this. So maybe should I do that first? Or do we need more time?
That's fine with me.
Do other task force members wish to weigh in before I call for public comment, or would you like me to call for public comment?
Tracy, I just wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
Dave Ingram. Towards Dawn's point earlier, at least the way I understood it, looking at these different options, the option 2 seemed to have the least impact and no negative impact on any particular library that I could see. So, a priority, I would lean towards that, at least as we try to understand this and see how the track record goes going forward, before any other adjustments. At least nobody's getting dinged. It doesn't appear to.
Dave, would you explain that one?
I'm sorry?
Would you explain that one, please?
Yes, ma'am. Option 2, as I look through the spreadsheet, there in some other option 1, you can notice several bracketed numbers, which to me assumes that they're losing funding.
Okay.
And none of the libraries appear to lose funding in option 2. Some of them don't get any more, but it seemed to be a net positive, at least for some of the libraries. So that was my leaning towards that option.
And so that would be using just a
Option
college
would
and
be-
city population?
No, option 2 is student employee.
Okay. Because I think her motion was college and city population, because she felt like it maybe more fairly represented usage of the tribal college libraries. But I think
Again,
that's, yeah.
Yeah, I plead ignorance in that regard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Could we number these? You're calling student employee number 2. Would number 3 then be the college and city? Could we do this so we know what we're talking about?
Mhm.
The
Correct.
college city could be number 2. And what's missing number 1? Just the school district one?
In the last meeting, it was definitely between student and employee and college and city population. Public comment suggested that allowing some sort of local, we're using the formula for everyone, but we're allowing the local public library and the tribal college library to kind of determine the best allocation of service area population with state library input. That's kind of the third option.
Okay.
Other task force members want to weigh in? Mark or Michelle or Jeannie? All right, so based on Brian's comments, I think I will go ahead and turn to public comment. So once again, Kara will be managing the public comments. So if you would like to make public comment, please raise your hand and she will call on you and you will have 3 minutes. And so we are discussing the specific topic of including the tribal college libraries within the state aid formula within administrative rules. So does anyone have any public comment on this?
Carmen.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm trying to think of the original intent of this, the new law that we're looking at. And I think the intent was to acknowledge that there's tribal libraries who fulfill the role of a public library in their community. So that the intent was not that all tribal libraries get some money. So I lean towards something that would specify that it's the student and employee population if one or more established public library branches are within whatever's reasonable, 20 minutes, 30 minutes drive time of the accredited tribal library. So that if that's not the case, then you actually have that tribal library that acts more like a public library. And then they get the funding allocated differently and calculated with more population because they truly are far away from a public library and are themselves the public library. So I'm just trying to think of a way to get very, very close to the intent of what the legislator did. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? I think that's it for this one, Tracy.
All right. Thank you for that, Carmen. So, I guess any comments or questions about what, or observations about what Carmen just stated? So Brian, I think you were proposing a motion. Does it seem appropriate to make that now?
Sure. Tracy, I'd like to move that that we retain the current formula and to direct the state library to negotiate individual agreements with public libraries and tribal college libraries whose service populations overlap. To negotiate individual agreements with public libraries and tribal college libraries.
Negotiate. Contracts?
individual agreements with
Thank you.
public libraries and tribal college libraries whose service populations overlap.
And there should be service area population, the word population between area and overlap. And so, Brian, to clarify, we would be creating an administrative rule stating this, or just that we would go forth, work this out, and then come back with a recommendation to change the administrative rule? Just want to clarify that.
No, I think that we would create the administrative rule that we retain the current formula, and then the state library has the authority to work with individual public libraries and college libraries whose service areas overlap, basically.
I think we would have to update the administrative rule to just give the state library staff that authority.
Okay.
Since this motion hasn't been seconded, do you mind adding that language, move that we retain the current formula and the administrative rule be updated?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Be updated to state that.
To direct.
To direct, thank you. Library to negotiate.
Yes. All right, so we have a
Brian, the
motion.
only problem, oh, yep, the only problem I have with passing that today as an action item
So
is.
point of order, Madam Chair. I think before we can discuss this, we need to have a second or not.
Yes.
Very well.
Yep. So the motion on the table is it has been moved that we retain the current formula and the administrative rule be updated to direct the state library to negotiate individual agreements for the public libraries and tribal college libraries whose service area population overlap. May I have a second?
Tracy, this is Joy. I second.
Thank you, Joy. So it has been moved and seconded. So now we can have discussion on this. Any comments or questions?
Brian, I appreciate the motion. The only concern I have with taking action on this today is I would like the staff and the tribal libraries to talk this through and work it out and see how complicated this might be for them. It may not be a problem, but it could be very, very complicated, and I'm not ready to take action to put this in as the rule when we don't know how this will play out. I don't know that we've studied this enough, what you're suggesting.
Thank you for that. Other task force members, I might call on you if I don't hear from you. So maybe I'll just kind of go down and Mark, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, it's definitely nuanced, and I mean, I think we definitely had some good information about it. I mean, I think moving forward with it and just, seeing how it goes. I mean, I don't necessarily know if more information is going to help us get much more clarity than what we already have. I mean, that's just sort of the way I feel, is that I have enough information to make a decision, and it might be one we have to revisit later. But that's just kind of the nature of some of these things.
Jenny, I see that you raised your hand.
Hi, thanks, Tracy and everyone. I just wanted to make two comments. First, to Carmen's earlier point, she's exactly right. The intent of the legislation that was passed is not to ensure that every tribal college library receives state funds, but that those who meet the public library standards are able to receive state funds. And so from my perspective as a staff person and practically speaking, I do think negotiating these individual agreements is a workable option. We know right now that 3 to 4 of the tribal college libraries offer these kinds of services and may be eligible for funding by meeting the public library standards. One of those libraries, the library in Poplar, already has an agreement worked out with their local library. So we know that at least in one instance, that agreement already exists, and there's likely very little work that would need to be done. Joy, I was really grateful to hear that you've already initiated conversations with the libraries in your service area, and it sounds like they're amenable to that. We also know that the library in libraries in Glacier County and the Medicine Spring Library have a meeting to discuss how they might work out an agreement. I believe that meeting is scheduled for next week. So from what we are hearing from libraries, it seems like they are ready and able to negotiate those kinds of agreements. And that's certainly a much simpler process than updating a formula that might then affect many more libraries.
Thank you, Jenny.
I'm just going to call on a few other task force members because I find that all of you add some really nuggets of wisdom. So I will go ahead and call on Michelle. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Thank you. I was just hesitant. The idea of taking money from others to help others is, we want to help them, but we also, it's hard as a library to think of money being losing some money to give to another, even though we want to always support other libraries. I really like what Jeannie said about the state feels like that they are capable and willing to negotiate individually with the libraries and work that out. So I'm pretty pleased with Brian's motion.
Jeannie, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I'm very happy with allowing the state library to negotiate the individual agreements for the public libraries and the tribal. I think that, like Jenny said, you know, it is in motion. I think we'll be okay. So I would vote for the motion as it has been made.
Mitch, I don't think we've heard from you on this one.
I don't remember who said it earlier, but I think it might have been Dawn who said things like the best formula or whatever would be the one that reflects reality, and I'm all for reflecting reality as much as possible. So, but then I think that the best way to figure out what that is probably the people on the ground, which are the people at the 2 libraries or however many libraries it is, to work out agreement with themselves. So,
Dave, may I give you a chance to kind of give your perspective?
Sure, sure. The concern I have is if all goes well, then everyone's happy. If there's a conflict resolution component of this, that's where I don't know where it will lead, and that would be my one concern. So that you don't have to renegotiate contracts every year, and you know, boards change, situations change, so that just increases complexity potentially. That's all.
That's a very astute observation. Dawn, I think you are the last one. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Dave just said exactly what I was thinking, is just that not every year you're having to go back and create something new. So yes, just that conflict resolution part.
Yeah, and Jenny, do you just still have your hand raised from the last time, or did you want to add to this one?
Both, I think.
Go ahead.
I appreciate Dave's comments, and it has me thinking about the point that that service area population is based on the decennial census. And so I think one strategy to try to ensure that there's some longevity to those agreements that withstand turnover would be to create 5 or 10-year agreements, recognizing that the service area populations are based on that census, and there really then shouldn't be a need to update agreements any more frequently than the population that's reflected in the formula. Just an observation.
And then I would also add to Carmen's point, which is correct, that was the intent, is the reason it's tied to the public library standards is that's the piece that indicates services are being provided to the public. And so if those standards were not met, then they would likely be ineligible. So there is that piece too. Any further comments or questions?
Tracy, if they're not being met, who would be making that determination?
So it would follow the deferral process outlined in administrative rules.
Okay.
And so that would be they request a deferral if they want one, and then that goes to the state librarian. If they didn't request a deferral, then they would be ineligible. If they request a deferral, then they have to work with Jenny and state library staff on a compliance plan if one is possible. And the task force at their last meeting opted to retain the current deferral process.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions about this motion before I call for the vote?
Tracy, I would just like to say I would probably vote for this motion because of what Jenny said. I think for me, the fact that Jenny feels the staff can do this as it's defined by Brian, that this falls within the venue of what they can do right now, and that it's best to do it that way. I trust the staff for that and you. So.
All right, thank you, Tammy. All right, so the motion on the table is that we retain the current formula and the administrative rule be updated to direct the state library to negotiate individual agreements for the public libraries and tribal college libraries whose service area population overlap. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Or is anyone abstaining? All right, motion carries. As Tammy has mentioned, there is a second piece to this, and that is it is quite possible that a tribal college library will say that I do not offer services to the public and I am not going to be applying for funds. In that particular case, I think Brian's motion actually covers us because, and unfortunately Katie had to step off. I don't know, Jenny, if you'd like to weigh in on this, but if in fact we do not have an individual agreement, then my read would be that we would just use the current formula, which would disperse the service area population amongst the public libraries in the county. Do you agree, or do you feel we need a motion?
I agree completely. I agree, Tracy. I think you're exactly right.
Okay. Is that, yeah, because we're using the current formula, it's already taken care of. Is that comfortable for task force members?
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, do you need a break before we go into this next one? I always like to check in because Zoom meetings can be intense. I swear they take a lot more brain bandwidth. Everyone okay? Okay. I'm going to take that as a yes. If you need to step away, we understand. And, you know, I'll just assume if I call on you and I hear nothing that you needed to step away for a few moments. So we are down to our last action items, and I completely, again, want to acknowledge, just like I did last time, that there's a lot of input on this, and this is probably the most controversial one we are dealing with. And I'm very grateful to all of you for tackling it and for adding your input and your thoughts. So this is considering amending the standards, and this is about the library director serving populations over 25,000 must have a Master's of Library Science or equivalent degree. I've shared with you the previous meeting materials. We shared with you the statistics about MLS degrees, and Kara Orban completed a review of other state library agency requirements and how they might tie state aid and degrees together. And then, as you can see, this one probably generated the most public comment. And so we shared those with you, and Rebecca did a very nice job of sharing with you just kind of the survey results and some things for you to think about. So at this point, what comments or questions or thoughts do you have on this one?
Tracy, is it the time that I can make a motion?
I generally would
Have
say
that
we
on
should.
the table before the discussion or before whatever.
Well, we could do that. I've been approaching it that we have the discussion, we call for public comment, and then we make a motion. Just because the local government center
Okay.
kind of trained me that that is the way, because the public is kind of giving you feedback, and then you're supposed to take that in and reflect on it as you make a
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
Do task force members just want me to call for public comment and then have Mitch make his motion? Or do you have other comments or questions on this one?
Tracy, I was not able to make comments at the last meeting. I was actually in the hospital 24 hours after major back surgery, and I thought I would sit in on it, but it turns out I was way underestimating major back surgery. I really appreciate the public comment. My concern about the public comment was there seemed a lack of understanding about the rule we're discussing, which only applies to the, I believe, 7 or 8 libraries of over 25,000. And people seem to be thinking that there is degree requirements or requirements for all the libraries in Montana. And that is a very optional discussion and decision for all the libraries in Montana. They're already making that decision based on what their library boards and their committees and the libraries themselves want in their library. So we are not making decisions on over 100 libraries in Montana. We are only deciding the 7 biggest libraries in Montana, which to me are the 7 libraries with the most direct boards and commissions involvement. 25,000 population. We are sort of telling the biggest cities in Montana, everybody else in Montana can manage what their librarians do, but you 7 or 8 cannot. And we have to override you and tell you what to do. And I feel like if people from Haber to Whitefish to Livingston to Hardin can make decisions for their boards like that, it almost, to me, almost feels arrogant to say to Billings and Great Falls and Helen and Butte, but you're not capable of it and we have to do this. That's one of my big concerns about this. I think the 25,000 number is exceedingly arbitrary. I think to say, well, you have 24,800, so you can make that decision yourself. But boy, you hit 25,000 and all of a sudden you're incapable of making that decision. I actually think there are boards in that 7 or 8 over 25,000 who might want higher degrees. They might want, I can see Bozeman requiring a PhD, maybe. I can see them not wanting a master's of library science, but rather of IT. It may be a library that's really functioning on IT. And all of a sudden they're like, boy, we need a librarian. We've had an assistant for 6 months who has an IT degree, and that is really helping us. So as you can tell, I really feel like people need to understand we are only dealing with 7 or 8 libraries that have the highest population in Montana and thereby have, as I have visited with many of them, very involved boards and commissions overseeing them who are more than capable of setting up their own standard. I don't think any of these major libraries are all of us going to say, we don't care about a standard for our head librarian. I think it may be just the opposite. But I find it ironic that we would step in just for these libraries and say, so I too would like to make a motion when you're ready, but I just wanted to share that. I think people need to understand whether they do it through their local library, they belong themselves to ALA and they use that as their setting formula, or their board just sets it up. All these libraries are not looking to Montana State Commission Board for what is right for their libraries. And I'm very uncomfortable that we would tell these 7 or 8 libraries that we need to govern them.
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate all the comments.
Yeah, people have really thought about this one, you can tell.
But I think, again, they're basing it from the false understanding that we somehow oversee all these libraries and what their qualifications are for librarians. We do not. We only oversee these 7 or 8.
All right. Thank you for that. Others?
Tracy, could I raise a point of order?
Sure, Brian.
I respectfully disagree with how you're approaching this. According to Robert's Rules of Order, unless there's a motion, there's nothing on the table. So we have nothing to discuss until such time as there's a motion. So I would, according to Robert's Rules of Order, we need a motion before we can discuss anything.
Okay. Yeah,
Our parliamentarian Genevieve, maybe she can weigh in on this.
Yeah, and Genevieve and I discussed this. So Genevieve, what do you think? I was using the local government center, but Brian is right. And I know you would say, should we have a motion on the table?
It helps. Yeah, helps kind of guide the conversation.
All right.
In that case, Tracy, can I make, this is Mitch from Livingston. I'd like to make the motion that I was going to make earlier.
Yeah, please.
So I would move that the task force recommend that the MLS requirement, it's standard for libraries 25,000 above service population be retained as it is. That is, say no change.
Okay. So our motion on the table is
let me share my screen really quick. I know I missed pieces of that. So
thanks, Genevieve.
Did I talk too fast?
That's okay.
Move that the task force recommend.
Hang on, as you can tell. Hang on one sec. Sorry, excuse my horrible typing. Task force recommend that the
MLS standard for libraries with a service population of 25,000 and greater be retained as is.
Sorry. Trying to copy the over 25,000 retain masters.
I think actually he just said over 25,000 be retained.
Be retained.
Yeah, because it references the standard.
Thank you. Just be retained and that's it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll clean that up. Sorry.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor that the task force recommend the MLS standard for libraries serving populations over 25,000 be retained. May I have a second?
This is Michelle from West Yellowstone. I second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. So we now have a motion on the floor. Are there any further comments or questions, discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, Tracy. I appreciate the other task force members' comments very much, and the public comments. I just wanted to, I wanted to share some thoughts from a different industry. As a physician in the state for many years, I'd like to share a few observations from the healthcare perspective, as it's been mentioned in several comparisons with regard to this issue. It warms my heart to hear all the comments extolling the virtues of formal education in their chosen field of endeavor. I've spent 11.5 years of formal training after high school, passed 5 national certification exams to reach board certification. So I can sympathize with degreed librarians. However, the powers that be in Montana have determined that others with different degree backgrounds, often requiring only half the time investment or are equivalent, they're granted the same scope of practice rights and are reimbursed accordingly. As an example, how many of you see nurse practitioners or physician's assistants when you go to the doctor's office, so to speak? There may be a doctor in the clinic to consult, but the requirement is consistently eroded. Nurse practitioners have achieved independent practice rights. So regarding loosening of degree requirements, the trend has been to expand access to privileges, increase choices, and monitor outcomes. And that's been the pattern in healthcare. So I just wanted to share that perspective with the other task force members. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Other comments or questions?
I was going to ask because my computer just did a weird blip. Are you all still seeing the motion screen? Is that what you're seeing on Zoom?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it just everything shut down and restarted. Thank you.
I think we're having power flickers here in Helena.
Okay, yeah, that was really weird. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the motion?
A couple of, I don't want to speak too much, so I'm waiting for other people who want to address this first. Because I had a couple points to add to what I think tying it into the MLS is very narrow. Again, whereas in Montana, we've set precedent that we do not have qualifications for the librarians up to 25,000. That is what we've already set. So we have already set precedent that we do not have to do this. And the MLS degree is not available in Montana. And I understand people can go out of state to get it. But I think along the lines of what Dave Ingram was talking about, I know I have a master's in education. I think many of us have master's degrees. I think, again, that a library, given where they're at, could want an IT degree, could want a business management degree, could want an HR degree, if that's where their situation is. I don't think we are disregarding a degree. I think, as I said, many of these librarians would go over this standard. I don't see them dropping it totally, but that is the choice of this large libraries in Montana. I think the arbitrary number is the 25,000. I think it would be hard to define that and stand by it in court. And I just feel like we're passing the responsibility to the boards and commissions in very large cities who already have great authority and are very involved. I know that, like I said, the cities I've talked to of over 25,000, their boards and commissions are exceedingly involved and would like to, many of them, set their own standard of what they want. This pretty much locks them into what a handful of people think. And that's why I would just encourage us not to go with just the MLS standard. So thank you for hearing me.
Yeah, of course. I know this is tough, but I think it would be good for all the task force members to weigh in. I really found last time that your comments were so thoughtful and so helpful to me in thinking through this. So I'm perfectly willing to call on people, but if you are comfortable, please weigh in on this motion.
Please do.
Yeah.
Tracy, this is Jeannie.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Mitch. I feel that the program is carefully crafted to educate the person that's getting a master's, to supply them with the skills they need. I feel these jobs are in a salary bracket that should require the proper education. you know, out here in our little tiny libraries, we may not be able to have people with any type of degree, particularly there are, I feel there are fewer people getting library endorsement. Like I said last time, you know, there were so many of us that came to public library from school library experience. And again, those library minors were carefully crafted to bring in what you needed to run a library. And I succeeded a phenomenal librarian, but she did not have a library degree, and there were things that needed to be addressed because you don't have that type of education. And I just feel that in the higher libraries, we do need to have a person properly trained.
Thank you, Jeannie. So, Joy, may I call on you to weigh in on this one? And I know she's a solo librarian, so she may have had to step away. Michelle, are you available to comment on this motion?
Thank you. I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and I spoke to quite a few other librarians. And why I agree with Mitch is I think that as it is, it's you put a lot of thought into it in the policies and the standards. I thought about other ways we could do it with maybe other degrees that would count, but it really, there's just so much nuance to a larger library, the nonprofit part of it, the business part of it, the political part of it. And also the leadership that these larger libraries offer as smaller libraries. Numerous times we look to other libraries for advice and help. And I just really feel that having the MLS degree is important. I considered maybe increasing the population requirements. That maybe that would be something that would help. But the more I just thought of it, I really like the way it is right now. I don't think it's too much to ask. I think as important as the libraries are and what they offer for our communities, it's important.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I've read the public comment. I also have the perspective of having served in, I think it was 2019 when the public library standards were last significantly revised, and reflecting on the fact that there was either negligible or no input from the public or from those libraries or those library boards asking us to reconsider this at that time. So thinking that, 4 years ago, no one, there was no public comment that really, targeted this issue, that the public comment that we received on it this go round seemed to be overwhelmingly in support of retaining it as is. I've thought a lot about this. I've certainly considered there to be some perhaps benefits to, not having the standard and letting it be, a pure matter of kind of local control of those boards to recruit the best candidates. But ultimately, I'm just sort of the opinion, if it's not broke, don't fix it. This impacts 8 libraries. It's served us well thus far. I think it has a lot of nuance and a lot of intangible benefits of having people with an MLS in those leadership positions, both on the local level and the statewide level. And I just, I would vote for the motion because I think it's important to have it be retained because it's worked well thus far, and public sentiment from those that are most intimately involved with libraries support it. So that's where I'm at with it.
And Dawn?
Yes, I think my comments are going to echo what Mark has said, and that is we need to listen to the public comment. There was an overwhelming response to keep the standard as is. And so we need to listen to our fellow librarians. And so therefore, although it's not quite the way that personally I feel, but I think that as a collective, we know best. And so then I'm very prepared to stand with our library professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Tammy.
Oh, did I put the hand up? I didn't mean to.
Okay. And then I just want to see if Joy is back. I don't know, Joy, if you are back, if you would like to weigh in on this one.
Sorry, I was running across the library.
That's okay. I told him you're a solo librarian. You were probably stepped away. I just, each task force member has really added to this discussion, and I wondered if you had any thoughts on this one.
I agree a lot with what Mark said. My population is only like just over 10,000, barely over 10,000. But being that my library is in a college, you have to have a master's to run the library for accreditation purposes and everything. And I'm the first librarian in my college to have a master's degree. The college insisted on it before the late Dr. Nate St. Pierre passed away. He really pushed that the library have an accredited librarian in it. And so he found the funding to send me to school to get my master's before he passed away. And I'm always grateful for that, because if by chance I ever do leave the reservation and do go to a library off of the reservation, I will have that skill because of him. So I do believe it is a skill that a library director should have if they're going to be in that position. I know Samantha, who's my assistant, who is out of the office today, has talked about leaning towards getting some equivalent to that, as well as the certificate from the state. So I strongly believe that, yeah, if you're going to run a library that's that large, then servicing a community that large, you should have a master's degree.
Thank you, Joy. And thank you, task force members, for adding your comments. At this point,
Well, can I say something, Tracy? Sorry, I thought you were going to call on me.
No, please.
This is Mitch from Livingston again. I could just echo what other people have said that I agree with, but I was going to mention my own experience and my consternation with the last meeting, the discussion on this topic at the last meeting, and then it's starting to come in on this meeting. And I should have picked up on it right away what it was, but now I know what it is. Is that there's been a subtle shifting of the burden of proof on this. This is a standard that has existed for decades. It's never caused trouble except for once, which was self-inflicted recently. It is not, it's a standard that it would be typical of many states across the country, and also in different professions have similar type standards for similar reasons. It's not up to those of us who are in favor of retaining the standard to prove why it should be retained. It's up to those who want to change it to tell us and give a good argument for why it should not be retained. And I haven't heard any good argument for why it should not be retained. Not at all. 25,000 is an arbitrary number. Okay, every number is an arbitrary number. I mean, we can talk about the weird case where there's a service population of 24,877 people. Oh, they don't need it, but the population of 25,101 people needs it. I mean, okay, we got to draw, if you're going to have a number someplace. Why do we have a number at all? Why are we picking on, I guess, these 8 libraries that do have this service population? I think that in a perfect world, the standard would state all public library directors have an MLS. But the making the cutoff at 25,000 is a recognition of the fact that that's just not realistic. There's no way all these little libraries are going to be able to afford people that have that kind of degree. And the numbers, in fact, it's not a way to tell those libraries, oh, you guys can't figure it out for yourself. You need somebody with an MLS. It's that everybody would like to have a director with an MLS. But these libraries are, to put it bluntly, the richest ones are the ones that are going to be able to afford it. So given that not everybody's going to have it, we'll say that that's the line we're going to draw is 25,000. In any case, that's my thoughts on the matter. It's not up to us to approve of the standard to say why it's good. It's up to those opposing it to say why it's bad. And I have not heard any good reason for that. Thanks.
And so, Brian, I think you were the last one who hasn't weighed in yet. Do you have anything you want to add, or?
So I would just, restate what I said at our last meeting is that the MLS is the professional credential for our profession. And I think there's a lot of value in having our largest libraries led by professional librarians. We heard comments at our last meeting about how the smaller libraries in Montana that aren't led by professional librarians rely on the larger libraries for guidance and assistance. I think that was a really, really good point. And I think there's a lot of value in having, I guess I don't understand why the larger libraries would not hire somebody with an MLS. It's an asset for them. So I think this is fine. And regarding the question of local control that came up last time, libraries do have complete local control. They can choose not to hire somebody with an MLS, but if they do that, then they forfeit state funding. And perhaps Jenny could weigh in a little bit on this. She made some comments last time about how this is state money and there are implications with allocating that money. I think that's an important consideration as well. And as others have observed, that overwhelmingly the experts in our state have provided public comments saying that they think that retaining the MLS requirement is the right thing to do. And I think we should listen to that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jenny, did you want to respond to Brian's?
I think the question that Brian was asking was about state funding and state standards. And I don't know if Katie is actually with us back or not, but I think there is a legal question then about whether or not local control is in fact a standard. And that was my comment at the last meeting. I would certainly want a legal opinion if the standard were changed in that regard. But we have an obligation to ensure that the state funds that we're distributing are distributed in a way that we can demonstrate equity, and the standards are how we do that.
Tracy, I would like to make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting that both Mitch and Brian were talking about there's a subtle underlying here. And perception is reality for everyone. And I understand this is going to pass, and I understand that from the viewpoint of the people on this committee, that is the right thing for that to happen. I think there's a subtle underlying here, touched on by Mitch and Brian, that this task force, or the 7 members of the commission, some or all the people in the state who have no requirements for their libraries, that collectively they all have better opinions on what is right for those 8 libraries than those 8 libraries do in their own boards. Those 8 libraries have boards appointed, and they are very involved in those 8 cities because, as Mitch touched on, well, they're the richest. I don't know they're the richest, but they are the biggest. and therefore they're very involved and their citizens are very active. So what I'm mostly uncomfortable with is this underlying feeling, this subtle saying from Mitch and Brian and all the people who stated that we don't have any requirements, but that's okay. These 7 rich schools need our opinion. I just am very uncomfortable with that, Mitch. And you said, well, you should prove why it should be different. I guess what I would ask you is, why do you think that those 8 boards locally governed can't make the right decision or aren't making good decision? Do you assume that they will automatically drop the MLS? Do you assume they won't come up with a PhD or a better degree for what fits their needs? Why all of a sudden are we saying that the opinion of the 7 commissioners or this task force, or all the libraries in Montana, over 100, who have no control on what their librarians, because we believe they can do what's best locally, all of a sudden have a right and a need to tell these 8 people what to do, these 8 boards? I find that just, I don't find it fair, and I find it bordering on arrogant. And I would call for question.
Well, we need to ask for public comment.
Okay.
So I think this, like I have noticed, is a topic that we have a lot of passion around. So I anticipate there may be some public comment. So for those of you who are members of the public, Kara Orban will be managing the public comment process. We were able to give you 3 minutes. We are asking you to comment basically on this issue of the MLS degree for libraries. And if you wish to make comment, you simply need to raise your hand and Kara will call upon you. We
Tracy,
yeah,
Tracy,
Brian.
I'm sorry, point of order. The question has been called, and according to Robert's Rules of Order, now we need to take a vote on that. And so we need 2/3 of the people of the board or the task force to decide on that. I don't think you can override that motion.
So Genevieve, I'm going to ask you to weigh in because my open meeting law training is making me really uncomfortable. Robert's Rules is definitely written for all types of organizations, many of which do not have to follow the open meeting law, but do you?
Yeah, give me one moment.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry, Brian. I totally understand with the Robert's Rules. It's just the open meeting law.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I just think that we need to follow appropriate guidelines.
And I totally agree, Brian. I just, I think the open meeting law might override in this particular case. But, well, Genevieve.
There needs to be a second and a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so it doesn't matter with the open meeting law. Okay. So
we need a second to Tammy's motion.
Okay. So Tammy made a motion. That was a call for the question. Do we have a second? So is there a second? All right.
So the debate can continue.
Motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, so now we will call for public comment. Thank you for your help, Genevieve.
If you would like to offer public comment, please click on the reactions icon in your Zoom toolbar and select raise hand. Carmen.
Thank you. I want to bring in my experience as a trustee. I think the concern for many is the knowledge that comes with an MLS degree, and that a library should have that knowledge. And I agree with that. Like if you're thinking of a car mechanic, you want a guy who knows what he's doing working on your car. But if, say, that's your own business and it grows and you end up with 20 bays with different car mechanics fixing cars, at that point, you need a person at the top who understands personnel, law, business decisions, money decisions, you no longer need a car mechanic at the top to run your business. You need a different person. And I think that's what my library has run into. We have several people on staff that have the degree and have the knowledge, and they run various departments. Children's department, programming, public outreach librarian. Several of these people have that degree. But we have found that the person at the top with managing 35 people needs different experience. They don't necessarily need the MLS. They need experience in running a business, kind of. They need to get along with the county commissioners. They need to know the law. They need to know how to arrange the budget. They need to manage those people. It's a different type of expertise. So I think just concentrating, wanting this expertise in this one designation, the library director, is misguided. And I wish we could change something that tells a library, when you get to a certain size, don't forget that you need this expertise, but you also need a manager on the top that can run a large organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Ashley.
Hello. I just wanted to weigh in very briefly on a couple of things. I don't think that anyone is discounting the MLS or its importance and relevance in running a library, although I do think Carmen made some great points. When I was running a small rural library in Alabama, I did a lot of hands-on library work that an MLS would have been extremely beneficial for me to have. And I didn't have that as an option at the time. So I had to look for alternative trainings, continuing education. I had to lean very heavily on other libraries, the state library, the ALA. But at my current position, I've done surprisingly little in the daily library work. That is all handled by professional librarians that do have a master's degree in library science. And I'm essentially a coordinator, a politician, a spokesperson. So it's a different skill set for sure. And I don't know that the MLS requirement should be done away with, but I think back to the issue of local control, library boards are appointed and they know what their community needs at any given time. And they may want something in addition to an MLS or in place of an MLS. So an alternative pathway or even a path towards accreditation post-hire would be very beneficial for larger libraries. Another thing, and this is just a personal note that I would like to throw out there, I think by leaning so heavily on the MLS, it can be disheartening for individuals who commit their life to library service and practice every day to retain the core values of libraries, ethical service for their community, to hear that without that degree, you are uneducated, unqualified. I think that's disheartening. And it limits our future as library workers to grow and to stay relevant. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Ashley. Is there anyone else who would like to offer public comment on this action item? I think that's it, Tracy.
Thank you, Kara. All right. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Tracy. Sorry, I guess I should have jumped in earlier when Jenny had first mentioned my name. I will be providing in the next week is the plan. There's a couple of memos that I need to be drafted for the commission before the upcoming October meeting. And one of them, as Jenny mentioned, is this local standard the local authority and standards, we're talking about funding, and I know I kind of touched on it the last meeting, and it will be in the upcoming memo that I am drafting. When we are talking about providing state funding to these different libraries, the issue that comes up with giving local boards their own ability to decide what's best for their library means that those standards are not being applied evenly, and we cannot be providing state funding in a discretionary way to where some libraries receive it because their library board thought this is what was in their best interest versus another library who disagrees with that. When we're providing state aid, the important is that we are being fair and equal in that distribution of the aid, and that's why these standards are important. So my legal opinion and in the paper would be that to give the local boards that authority to decide what is best when it comes to receiving state aid, I would strongly advise against that. Just the liability to the state library when we're talking about giving out money, if it's not going to be evenly applied across the board. And as it has been addressed, if the library chooses to disagree with that standard, that is within their local authority. But when we're receiving that money, it needs to be evenly applied.
Tracy, may I ask Katie a question?
Yes, go ahead, Tammy.
Katie, didn't we just do that in the other motion with the tribal colleges? Where Brian passed a motion, we all voted for it, that it would be left up to various the tribal councils and various with Jenny to set different standards of to how to spend the money. So I think we just did that. And with what you just said, what we just did would not be appropriate.
And that is another issue that we are researching and providing language on. And I apologize, I was in and out of that meeting. My understanding is that the formula is going to be the same that we apply to giving the aid. We're going to set a formula. They are allowing the input as to what that formula looks like. But yeah, as we're still providing aid, yes, it's going to be a standard formula that is applied throughout when we're distributing that aid as well. I don't know if I really answered your question, but the input from the local libraries will come in, but the standard will be, my understanding, the same. What A plus B equals C will be the same to every library in that funding as it's appropriate.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion based on what was just shared by Katie.
All right.
I would like to amend Brian or Mitch's motion to say that we recommend the MLS or equivalent degree or work experience requested by the local authority.
Give me a second to equivalent degree.
Equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority.
Oh my goodness, 1 second, sorry.
You're fine. You're doing great.
It's hard to type while people are watching you.
And while you're typing, I will just say that this goes along with what Katie just shared, that it was okay for the tribal that we said, as long as we have a standard, that it can vary. This would be a standard that within it, there's variance for those boards.
I think one.
Can I confuse it further by saying that when I made that motion to say to retain the standard, that the standard does include the part about equivalent degree?
Yeah, it does.
But it's not written here, so I think it needs to be in it. It does have that, but it's not in your degree.
It doesn't have the work experience.
No, it doesn't have the or equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority.
Right. The first part of that.
Oh, again, point of order,
Okay,
point of order.
we
Before we
need
can discuss this amendment, we need
we
to
need
have
a second. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
and a vote.
Yes.
So
So Tammy has moved. I just was giving Genevieve time to write it, everyone. So
Yes, we
appreciate
understand.
your passion, but it does help, I think, to have it on the screen. So Tammy has moved to amend the motion to state that the task force recommend the MLS standard or equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority for libraries serving populations over 25,000.
And just take off the be and cross out be retained.
Yes, please.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to
So
find
we
one
have an
second.
amendment. Do I have a second?
I will second that, Dave.
Right.
Okay.
So it's been amended and seconded. A clarification, Genevieve. Are amendments open to discussion before
Yes.
voting? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So is there any discussion on this amendment?
Yes, Tracy, sorry, I lowered my hand and re-raised it.
Okay. Thanks, Katie.
I from a legal standpoint, I would advise that if this is the way the commission or the board and task force is going to recommend to the commission, language like this, there needs to be a set standard. Then what is the minimum requirement you're still going to require as that equivalent degree or experience required? We still should have a minimum that you must have this level of a degree or a degree on your staff or a certain level of work experience, because then what we are doing is now we're kind of getting, or if it's better left to you're trying to define hardships in our deferrals, because a local board's going to request something and now we're going to be asking Jenny to decide what, I guess, when I read this rule, I think it leaves a lot of interpretation as to what is that equivalent degree or equivalent work experience that is going to allow that funding to be given. The local authority can provide it in their request, maybe, explain that out. But I think by just playing that into the standard, we still leave a lot of interpretation as to what exactly is that equivalent degree and what exactly is the minimum experience required. I don't see an issue with this idea as long as we're still trying to define what the minimum must be for those things, because then it is clear that if everyone agrees and it is passed, and we have an administrative rule is saying if you have 15 years of experience in library or whatever some arbitrary number may be, that we believe that is an equivalent, if that makes sense. I think by just saying whatever the local board requires, we're still leaving it up for interpretation as to what is that minimum experience and minimum equivalent degree, which I believe is something the task force has also, looked into what would be acceptable alternatives to the MLS degree. I'm not trying to provide more confusion. It's a very nuanced area, and there's nothing wrong with this idea and approach as long as we're still defining what those minimum alternatives would be, so that it's a fair application across the board.
Katie, I would point out that we just did that with the tribal money, and I'm not sure right now if that is a legal opinion you're giving or just your own opinion. It could be loosey-goosey. Is that a legal opinion in writing, what you just shared?
So it will be in writing, yes. I'm not, any comment I make is as a legal advisor to the Montana State Library, and it is my legal opinion.
Okay.
And so I would like to kind of jump in. I appreciate that everyone feels very passionately about this. I would say it is my hope that we come up with a good solution without maybe being disrespectful to one another. I just worry a little bit. It feels like it might be veering in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's for all of us. My understanding with the difference between the formula is it's a formula. This is the standards. And so the formula actually is using the standard service area population calculation. And so what I think Katie is saying is if the task force wants to go this way, then we just need to set the floor. Like, what is the minimum? Because the formula and I just know this because I work with the administrative formula every year when we're allocating state aid, it has that minimum. It has that like the walls, so to speak. And so I think what Katie's saying, if you want to go this route, what are the walls? Like what are the places people can't go over? Does that help? And Katie, correct me if I'm not using a good analogy there. That was on the fly.
No, Tracy, that's simply all I was suggesting, is that there is a difference between a formula that is the same versus these standards. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with the library commission and the task force recommending this change in a way where there's alternatives. We just need to know and set a box of what those alternatives are limited to is all.
Thank you. So that much more eloquently. Any further discussion, comments, or questions on this amendment?
Tracy, I'm Robert's rules are not my specialty, but is there an opportunity to make an alternative amendment based on Katie's suggestions?
You can move to amend the amendment. We can do one more.
Okay.
So
Well,
would you like to do that?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would take Mitch's motion and
We have to
no-
amend the actual amendment. So you have to take,
Okay.
I'll copy
Okay.
this one. Yeah. So you have to make an addition or deletion to this one.
I got to try to find it on my screen. So I'm not sure I can see your oh, there it is. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
I'm trying to
You
find
can
it on.
add or delete. Yeah.
Still having trouble pulling it up. That's what I'm having. You're typing. Don't.
Would it help if I read it, Dave?
Yes, that'd be great
Okay.
if you could just read it to me, Tracy.
Yep. So what it says
I'll go up to
currently
the-
is
that one.
Tamara Hall moved to amend the motion to state that the task force recommend the MLS standard or equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority for libraries serving populations over 25,000.
I would change that to with the last component of or completion of an initial Montana State Library Director certification coursework.
Okay, hang on. Or completion of
an initial, or completion of initial Montana State Library Director certification coursework within 2 years.
library certification coursework. Sorry.
And then to clarify, Dave, would you be recommending striking through the equivalent degree or work experience required by local authority?
Yes, just for clarity.
Okay, so then.
So this is you're building the box.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Dave Ingram moved to amend. I'm just reading it for myself. Dave Ingram moved to amend the amendment to state that the task force recommend the MLS standard, and then we're adding or completion of initial Montana State Library Director Library Certification coursework, crossing out equivalent degree or work experience required by local authority. So it would read completion of the initial Montana State Library Director Library Certification for library serving populations over 25,000.
Within 2 years.
Oh, thank you. Coursework within 2 years. Thank you. So this is now the motion on the amendment of the amendment on the table. Do we have, sorry, Tracy, I think we need to, sorry.
Yeah, so the motion on the table is Dave Ingram has moved to amend the amendment to state that the task force recommend the MLS standard or completion of initial Montana State Library Director library certification coursework within 2 years. We would strike the equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority retained for libraries serving populations over 25,000. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to modify the original amendment. striking out equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority and adding in or completion of initial Montana State Library Director library certification coursework within 2 years. Are there any comments or questions? And Katie, do you have your hand up for this, or did you just leave it up for?
Sorry, I forgot to lower it.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Brian.
So I think this is drastically diluting the current standard. According to this amended amendment now, a person would be required to have absolutely no credentials whatsoever. You could hire somebody who hadn't even completed high school as long as they took this library certification course from the state library. So I would strongly oppose this amended amendment on those grounds.
Okay, Brian. Any other comments?
This, Tracy, if I may speak, this amendment also allows some recognition of local boards having a certain level of integrity and thought in their hiring and administration of their libraries. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments or questions on this from the task force members? All right, hearing none, it is, I have a sense that there will, this will have divided votes. It's very hard for me to actually be able to tell who voted yes and who voted no or who abstained if I just asked for a voice vote. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to do a roll call. And so I'm going to pull up the task force member list. And Mark, I'm going to make you go first because I've made Joy go first every other time. So Mark, what is your vote on this move to amend the amendment?
No.
Okay. Brian.
No.
Okay. Jeannie.
No.
Dawn.
No.
Okay. Dave.
Yes.
Tammy.
Yes.
Mitch.
No.
Michelle.
No.
And Joy.
No.
All right. So the move to amend the amendment fails. So we are back to Tammy's original amendment. So Tammy had moved to amend the motion to state that the task force recommend the MLS standard or equivalent degree or work experience required by the local authority for libraries serving populations over 25,000. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, once again, we will do a voice vote, and this time I'll start with Joy. So Joy, what is your vote on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. Mitch?
No.
Okay. Tammy?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Okay. Jeannie?
No.
Okay. Brian?
No.
And Mark?
No.
All right, so what are our counts, Genevieve?
Okay, so 1, 2, 5 yeses and 4 nos.
All right.
So this is the new motion.
Yep. So the new motion. So what we have to do is we have to then vote on the new motion.
Tracy.
Yeah, Michelle.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I made a mistake. I stepped away and I thought we were voting. I didn't realize we were voting on
the amendment.
Yeah, I apologize.
Okay.
I thought we were voting on the original.
Okay.
So is it possible for me to change mine to no.
Genevieve, what is the rule on that? Is that okay?
I think so.
Okay. So
So now we are 4 no's and, I'm sorry, 5 no's and 4 yeses.
okay.
So now we're, so let's go ahead. Yep.
So the amendment has failed. So we are back to the original motion made by Mitch,
Correct.
which recommends the MLS standard for libraries serving populations over 25,000 be retained. Is there any discussion on this? All right, once again, I will call, and I'll start with Mark again.
Yes.
Okay. Brian,
Yes.
Jeannie,
Yes.
Dawn,
Abstain.
okay. Dave,
No.
okay. Tammy,
No.
okay. Mitch,
Yes.
Michelle, Michelle, are you might have had to step away. Joy?
Yes.
All right. And then Michelle, have you returned?
Yes.
Okay, and are you voting yes
No.
for
Are you
Mitch's
voting?
motion?
Yes.
Are you
Okay.
okay?
Sorry.
Okay, so it looks like this motion has passed. So the task force is recommending that we keep the current standard as is. I want to thank all of you because I know that that was an incredibly difficult conversation and question that was presented before us. I very much appreciated the different viewpoints and the thoughtfulness that you brought to it. And in fact, I want to just say I really appreciate all of your work on this. You really brought your different perspectives and reminded me of the complexity of what sometimes seems like very simple questions and all of the nuances you have to think about. At this point, are there any other businesses and announcements or
Tracy?
Yeah, go ahead, Tammy.
I would like to file a minority report for when this goes to the commission. And I would like to file my own opinion that Montana Library Commission should abolish the standard of the MLS degree and leave that to the local board. I know it's a minority opinion, but I'd like it as the commissioner to go forward. I also want to thank you for all your hard work and everybody else for their input. And Katie, I want to make sure that I did not overstep while you and I were talking or debating these issues. And so if I did, I apologize.
And
but
I appreciate
minority report to go forward.
And I appreciate you sharing that, Tammy, and the task force members probably do too. That transparency is very much appreciated. Any other business or announcements? All right, everyone. This was a hard discussion. I very much appreciate all of you. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time. I will craft the memorandum that will go to the commission with just all of your recommendations. Katie will be adding her legal opinions. Tammy has kindly and transparently let you know she'll be posting her information as well for the commission to consider. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will keep you posted on what happens. So thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned as of 11:03 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
We
Thanks for your
appreciate
leadership, Tracy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.